Good morning, everyone. This is Stuart Fields, and I'd like to welcome you to today's webinar. This is a pre-recorded version. I had some issues with the original recording. Sound was not quite there, and I had to get some technical issues worked out. However, this should be a much better quality version for those that have attended, and I promised you a follow-up with this webinar. And today's session is about the R factor, moving from where you are to where you want to be. It's an awesome process that has proven strategies, and I will go ahead and start sharing that with you now. So hang on one second. Let's just open that up. And you should be pulling that up on your screen now. So the R factor, getting from where you are to where you want to be. This helps you build the kind of life, lifestyle, career, and future that you've been yearning for, right? Many of you dream about it, you want it, but it's just not there. If life might be feeling kind of stagnant for you right now, like you're just going through the motions every day and nothing really changes, I want to take you through a process that will help you to start dreaming again. And I want to give you this proven process for getting from where you are now to where you would like to be. These proven strategies that I'll be sharing are already being used by top achievers around the world. And these are people who have succeeded wildly in business, philanthropy, sports, entertainment, science, and more. They've got awesome lifestyles, terrific relationships, fascinating causes that are important to them, all the money that they need, and of course, they've got the freedom of making their own schedule to focus on the things that they want to do. Now, I would like that to work for you too, which is why I'm happy to have you with me today to go through this proven formula. It's just a matter of following the steps. There are 4 steps in all. And if you've had a chance to download and print out the workbook that's included free with this webinar, you'll see that there are worksheets that you can do on your own time for each of these 4 steps. So with that, let's get started. The first step to creating a different future is actually an equation that changes everything. E plus R equals O, which stands for event, plus response equals outcome. When I first learned this equation, I responded to life's events as they came up. If I got a flat tire, I responded with frustration. If my bank account was in trouble, I was miserable. If there was bumper-to-bumper traffic, then I was running late for a meeting, I blamed the traffic. That was until I learned this equation for responding differently to life's events when they came up, essentially reframing the whole story. Here's the reality. Events just happen. Often you can't control them because they materialize as the result of specific situations, other people's emotions, timing, the economy, the weather, and a million other details that are outside of your control. Events just happen. But what most people do when faced with events is that they feel harassed and stressed. They'll do anything just to make the situation go away. That's reactionary, and unfortunately, it often produces an outcome they don't want. So what's their first inclination? To blame the event for their bad outcome. Unfortunately, blaming an event for producing a negative in your life puts all the power outside of your control. There's nothing you can do about external events. They happen. That's reality. The only way to get a good outcome is to respond in a way that will bring about the outcome that you want. One quick example is when I lost my job in 2008. I was working for the Schwan Food Company, and it wasn't my first layoff. It was actually my 4th in the field of learning and development, and I've been in learning and development for several decades now. I have a tendency to be that department that gets cut when the economy gets sketchy or the business is needing to cut back expenses. Usually HR, and particularly learning and development, is one of the first areas to go. So I had previously been really upset with the companies and thought it was unjust, and I was scrambling and had to find something else. And usually I found something, but it took a long time. And although I generally came out of these situations better, it was still a very frustrating, stressful, and incredibly trying time after the layoff. In 2008, a little bit different. Because I had been through layoffs before, I decided that I would make a different approach. I took this formula, I responded differently, and rather than being upset and blaming the company and getting angry at everybody and everything around me, I decided to celebrate a new beginning. And I launched as an independent. And now I'm moving on 11 years that I've been self-employed. Each year seems to get better. And it all was just within my control. I changed my response to that situation, that event that happened. And the outcome is very different. It's what I have now around me. So today, the first step in this life-changing formula that I've been talking about is to take responsibility for how you respond to events, mishaps, catastrophes, but especially how you respond to opportunities that come up. This doesn't mean you have to take responsibility for the event itself. That's usually out of your hands. But how you respond is 100% within your control. And it's the one leverage point where you can change what you get out of life. So taking more responsibility for your responses is the first and most important step toward creating more success in our lives. You can be thoughtful and deliberate, or you can be frustrated and reactive and emotional. It's always your choice. And what's so terrific about this concept is that it puts the control back in your hands. This is especially important when opportunities come up, opportunities for you to get ahead or achieve what you want. Do you know that some people react emotionally when an actual opportunity presents itself? They complain that the timing isn't right, or that they're not ready, or that it will require a lot of work to respond to the opportunity, or that they don't have the money right now. You'd be surprised at the complaints you'll hear from some people when an opportunity arises. But here's the second point about the E+R=O equation. You have to give up blaming and complaining about the event and focus on how you'll respond appropriately and positively. Getting back to the negative event that happened. What do most people do? They tend to complain to the wrong person. If I'm upset that my boss Erica has given me a ton of extra work to finish by tomorrow morning, I complain to my coworker Stephen. And if I'm upset with my spouse for spending on a major purchase without consulting me, I complain to my best friend. That doesn't solve anything because you're complaining to the wrong person. It's wasted energy. I need to tell Erica that her timing or prioritization of projects is unworkable, and we need a better system of scheduling. I need to tell my spouse that I'd like to create a household budget so that major purchases are planned and paid for before we make the decision to buy. If I speak to the right person instead of the wrong person, the right person can do something about it. They have feedback that I would like something different. And of course, that person won't always grant my request, but at least communicating my request is the first step to actually getting what I want. This is just mature discussion. It's relationship management 101. But what about natural disasters and other events that don't involve individual people? I can respond differently to those events too. I can leave an extra 20 minutes early for meetings in case there might be traffic. I can keep up on the economic news and put extra savings aside if I hear that a recession is predicted. I can upgrade my skills so that I'm still valuable to the new management team after my company gets bought out. And I can have the right kind of healthy foods in my refrigerator so that I'm not eating on the run or grabbing junk food because I'm too busy to shop or cook. Instead of spending most of the time blaming things outside of ourselves, the weather, our boss, the traffic, the economy, or the current president, we can take action in advance and be prepared. We can devise ways to increase our options should disaster occur. Whatever the world throws at us, we have to stop blaming something outside of ourselves. So taking more responsibility for our responses to events is the first and most important step toward creating more success in our lives. Another important part of taking responsibility is not being a victim in life, is watching out for what I call yellow alerts. Yellow alerts are little events or comments or recurring situations that you notice that act as clues that something is happening or about to happen that is not going to work out in your favor. Here's an example. I might hire Sarah as my personal assistant, and 2 months later she says, I'm thinking about marrying a wonderful guy who lives in the Bahamas. But I ignore that. A month after that, Sarah says she's really falling in love with this guy and also hates the cold weather here in Wisconsin. A few weeks after that, she's buying bridal magazines and looking for real estate in Nassau. Then, all of a sudden, Sarah quits, and I'm surprised and I'm prepared and scrambling for a new admin solution because I wasn't paying attention to the yellow alerts that Sarah was giving me all along. There are lots of yellow alerts in your life, like your teenager coming home late night after night with an interesting smell on his clothes, or the senior executives from head office have been repeatedly visiting your department with no explanation, or your biggest client has been giving projects that are ideal to you away to other consultants. You wonder, well, what's going on here? But you don't want to say anything because that would be uncomfortable. Unfortunately, because mature conversations and inquiries and taking action is inconvenient or uncomfortable, we tend to deny the yellow alerts rather than act upon them in time. The truth is that we're almost always giving clues that things are coming. We are not the victims here. I want to direct your attention to 2 different exercises in the free workbook that was included with today's class. If you don't have your workbook yet, you can download it after this webinar is over by going to the link that was in your confirmation email in which you registered for today's webinar. You won't need your workbook to do any exercises right now, but to get the most benefit from today's class, please do the exercises sometime this coming week. The first exercises I want to explain is something called a difficult or troubling situation analysis. Just like an unexpected event, we all experience ongoing troubling situations from time to time. It's just part of life. No matter how well you prepare for these hardships, they sometimes simply happen. And if not addressed, they can trouble you for years. It's far easier to resolve the situation than move on. What kind of situations am I talking about? A teenager, a sibling who's not speaking to you. A financial difficulty that's getting worse every day. A health condition that's annoying, nagging, or uncomfortable. A tense atmosphere at the office. That sneaking suspicion that your spouse is being unfaithful. The key here is to respond to the event, whether it's sudden or long-standing, with a commitment to resolving it, so that you can move on to creating better outcomes in the future. The difficult or troubling situation analysis will help you get past a current situation so you can focus on your success again. The exercise has full instructions in the workbook, but essentially it asks you to analyze the payoffs or benefits for keeping the situation like it is, the negative costs of keeping like it is, your part in creating it or allowing it to be like it is, and actions you could take or requests you could make to get what you want instead. Don't fail to respond to a troubling situation because it's easier, more convenient, less uncomfortable, less confrontational, keeps the peace, or doesn't require taking risks. Don't allow negative outcomes to be your fate. In the same way, you don't want to fail to respond to a yellow alert because it's easier or more convenient or less confrontational. There's a second exercise in your workbook called What Are You Pretending Not to Know? If you're experiencing negative outcomes in your life, perhaps you're ignoring the facts or excusing your part in creating the problem. To help you identify to take corrective action, hang on a sec. All right, full disclosure here. We're on slide 6, and if you haven't already guessed it, I do have a script in front of me. There is a lot of content to get through, and I'd like to keep this to our time of about 45 minutes to an hour. And in order to get through everything, I do need to read the script. I apologize if it sounds like it's read. I'll try to animate it as much as possible, and I just want to share all of this content because there's so much valuable content here to share. I just lost my place, and I'm going to go back and pick up where we left off. So continuing on the exercise for yellow alerts. If you're experiencing negative outcomes in your life, perhaps you're ignoring the facts or excusing your part in creating the problem. To help you identify areas to take corrective action or take action to prevent eventual disaster, the exercise asks you to examine each area of your life and determine if there's a problem that you are ignoring or creating. You might be ignoring something to do with your health, or your money, or your family, or your lifestyle or career. Whatever it is, this exercise will help you respond to the yellow alerts before something disastrous occurs. The next critical step in the proven success formula that I introduced at the beginning of this webinar is that you have to decide what you want. One of the most amazing phenomena you'll ever experience as you incorporate this formula into your daily life is the unexpected phone call, the windfall financial benefit, or the uncanny new acquaintance that brings you exactly what you want or need in order to achieve your goal, almost as if it were planned. Perhaps it's the universe rewarding your new take-action attitude by harnessing all the forces at its disposal. Or perhaps you've worked hard and have grown yourself to the point that you're finally ready to receive a benefit which has been waiting in the wings all along. But more probably, as researchers now believe, it may simply be a matter of your subconscious mind focusing on and recognizing opportunity when it arrives. Whatever the explanation, the reality is that what you want wants you. Your goals, desires, and needs are patiently waiting to gravitate toward you once you decide what you truly want. Of course, the main reason why most people don't get what they want is that they haven't decided what that want is. They haven't defined their goals exactly in clear and compelling detail. After all, how else can your mind know where to begin looking, seeing, and hearing if you don't have specific and detailed goals to achieve? There's a very powerful technique for helping you define what you want in vivid detail. I'll be talking about this technique in just a moment. But before defining the ideal life you want for yourself, here's a word of caution. Make sure that your wants are personally important to you, not those you believe should be important, or those that the world expects you to have, or something your mother wants you to focus on. What's truly important to you from the deepest place in your heart. That's what's most important. Don't live someone else's dream. Unfortunately, the sad reality for most people is that they simply aren't honest with themselves. If they were, they would realize that their shoulds are almost always less interesting and more hassle than what they truly want. Here's an example. Many people who become social media influencers or industry experts or working dull jobs or following a career that other people thought was fantastic, but their lives didn't really become thrilling or fulfilling or meaningful or even lucrative until they started a decorating blog or started consulting with small businesses or started writing cookbooks. Once they were living the life they truly wanted, all of the necessary opportunities showed up, including the money. One of the easiest ways to begin deciding what you truly want is to ask a friend to help you make a list. Have the friend continually ask you, what do you want? 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 For about 10 to 15 minutes while jotting down your answers. Now, the friend will be jotting these answers down for you, so don't worry about taking notes. Just think about responding. You'll find that the first wants you run through aren't all that profound. In fact, most people usually hear themselves saying, I want a Mercedes, I want a big house on the ocean, and so on. But at the end of the 15-minute exercise, the real you will begin to speak. Things like, I want people to love me. I want to make a difference. I want to be significant to my field. Wants that are true expressions of your heartfelt desires. So, that's a quick exercise you can do with a friend, and then trade places and help them make their own list of wants too. But to really create your definitive list, I want you to turn to the page in your workbook and find an exercise called the vision exercise. And it will help you decide what you want to be, do, and have in 7 major areas in your life. The vision exercise is also located in your workbook. This is an exercise you do privately, just you alone. Start by putting on some relaxing music and sitting quietly in a comfortable environment where you won't be disturbed. Then close your eyes and ask your subconscious mind to give you images of what your ideal life would look like if you were living it exactly as you want. Visualize your life in 7 key areas. And these areas would be your career and professional life, your finances, your recreation and free time, your body and physical health, your relationships, your personal growth, your community work. As you go through the exercise, you'll be defining what you want to be, do, and have in each of these 7 areas. There are ideas, prompts, and memory joggers in each section to help you think through your ideal life. But your subconscious mind knows what you want and should be the ultimate source of ideas for you. Even if you don't have the workbook with you, let's do a bit of this exercise right now. Close your eyes now and begin breathing deeply. In through the nose and out through the mouth. Take another deep breath in through the nose and exhale through your mouth. And one more, in through the nose and out through your mouth. Now imagine you are in your ideal home environment. Where is it located? What kind of decor? What is the view outside the windows? What are the colors of the main living areas? Is there music playing in the background? How do you feel as you stroll through the rooms of your ideal home? Now, come back slowly and open your eyes. What you just did is an example of the vision exercise that you'll be doing later in the workbook. It takes time. Don't rush it. If you don't immediately see the images of the different areas of your life, that's perfectly okay. It still works just as well if you are just thinking of the ideal elements versus actually seeing them or seeing yourself in those environments. Let your mind wander a bit. Dream a little. When the ideas come to you, write them down in the workbook. Many people set aside an evening to do the rest of this exercise. So tonight, after this webinar, is a great time to get started on this lengthy exercise. But it's an important one because they will ultimately form a goals list of the things that you need to work on. Okay, so here's some really good news. Those wants that you'll be identifying later in the workbook are achievable. In fact, for most everything that we want, someone else has already done it, created it, owned it, or achieved it. So there's not much of what we want anymore that is so lofty it can't be accomplished. But the key to beginning what you want, and here is step 3 of the formula that I first introduced way back at the beginning of this webinar, is to set goals around the things that you want to be, do, and have. And how do we set a goal? By writing it in such a way that is specific and measurable. That is, someone other than you can know for certain whether you've achieved the goal or not. Let me give you an example. If you said, I want to own a house at the beach someday, that's a nice dream or desire to have. But to make it specific and make it into a measurable goal, you need some more information. And you need to state it in a way that there is certainty you'll have that beach house one day. Like this: I will own a 4,000 square foot house on the Pacific Coast Highway in Malibu, California by 12 o'clock midnight, April 30th, 2025. Do you hear the difference? The second version of your goal tells your brain exactly what you want it to achieve, not just a vague, dreamy hope. You don't, if you want to retire early with millions of dollars invested, for example, state the exact amount of money you'll have invested on the exact date you plan to retire. As part of the vision exercise in the workbook, you'll be turning all of your wants into specific and measurable goals that you can begin working on and achieving. That's exercise number 4. And here's a bonus idea. Why not create a list of minimum goals, target goals, and outrageous goals? Whenever you write down your specific and measurable goals, set 3 different levels that you will achieve. Let's say you want to build a large savings account and get out of debt. A minimum goal might be putting together a $1,000 emergency fund in the next 30 days. A target goal might be to save 3 to 6 months living expenses in the next 8 months. And an outrageous goal might be to pay off all of your consumer debt and even your mortgage in the next 7 years. The outrageous goal is always something that would just blow your mind if you had achieved it. Your target goal is usually something within your capabilities. And your minimum goal is something that you're almost guaranteed to reach, but it gets you going and taking action. Whereas an outrageous goal might seem too overwhelming to start. What happens with this minimum target optimum formula is that most people will start with the minimum. Then they will get motivated, end up reaching their target goal very easily. Have you ever said, I'm just going to get rid of all those old dishes stored in the garage? And the next thing you know, you've cleaned the entire garage and even called a local charity to haul away a truckload of cast-offs. It was just a matter of getting started. You could even delegate the entire garage cleanup to a professional organizer or trade with a friend by doing something for them. That would achieve your target goal for certain. While goal setting is an important step to achieving the wants on our dream list, most of the goals we set focus on improving our life in the moment. Things like get the house painted, finish my sales report, clean out the laundry room, lose 20 pounds. But what if instead you focused on a single goal that would up-level everything you do? From your career to your career network, to your income, to your lifestyle. Wouldn't that be a goal worth pursuing with passion? Wouldn't that be something to focus on a little each day until you achieved it? Think about it. If you were an independent sales professional and you knew you could get a substantial bonus commission and maybe even a promotion once you landed a certain number of customers, wouldn't you work day and night to achieve that goal? If you were a stay-at-home mom whose entire lifestyle and finances would change by earning an extra $3,000 a month, wouldn't you pursue every possible opportunity for side work outside your own part-time business to achieve that goal? That's what I mean by a breakthrough goal. Something that changes your life, brings you new opportunities, gets you in front of the right people, and up-levels every activity, relationship, or group you're involved in. What might your single breakthrough goal be? There's an exercise in the workbook that will help you decide. But for the purposes of this webinar, whether you believe you can achieve it or not, what is one single change in your career, business, lifestyle, or relationships that would boost you to the next level? Is it landing a promotion, changing jobs, expanding your business, finding your soulmate, qualifying for an award, going back to school, moving across country, retiring early, or some other goal? Take time later to think about your breakthrough goal. There's a page in the workbook to figure it out and jot it down. Look for exercise number 5. I want to finish our discussion of goal setting by thinking about a technique that will help you to achieve major goals in record time. It's a way to get your brain focused on assembling the resources, people, money, and circumstances needed to bring about your everyday goals, especially your breakthrough goal. It's called affirmations. Affirmations are vividly detailed statements of your living, working, and enjoying your life as if your goals had already been achieved. Affirmations help the brain focus on bringing about your heartfelt desires. One example of an affirmation is, I'm happily depositing my first $100,000 royalty check as a best-selling author. Another affirmation is, I'm joyfully receiving the company's top sales award. How do affirmations work? As scientists now know, the brain is a goal-seeking organism. If you give it a compelling, colorful, crystal clear image of what you want, it will work day and night to create the opportunities, contacts, resources, and circumstances needed to achieve this vision. In fact, the brain has a special function called the reticular activating system that filters through the millions of impressions, images, messages, and thoughts it processes each day and passes to your subconscious mind that specific information that will help you reach your goal. For example, if you've ever thought about speaking at your industry convention is a way to boost your career, then immediately remember that you met the National Education Director last month at a trade show. That's your reticular activating system, bringing you ideas and contacts that can help you achieve your goal. Reciting your affirmations frequently throughout the day actually focuses your brain on the goals you want to achieve. Writing them out on index cards, note cards, or your smartphone's wallpaper, on a sign at the bottom of your bathroom mirror, or in other places that you see frequently, is a way to constantly focus on your most important goals. My best advice is to write out your specific and measurable goals on 3x5 cards. Then review the cards in the morning when you first wake up, and again at night just before you fall asleep. You don't always have to know how you'll accomplish this goal. One thing that I've just done recently is I've downloaded an app for my Android, but it's also available on iOS, on affirmations. And it rotates different pictures of affirmations with wonderful backdrops. And you can add music to it, you can add voice to it. There's a host of different apps out there. But creating the recurring affirmations is just something to post in front of you. I have it both on my phone and tablet now. It's just something you might think about. So just keep visualizing yourself in the future as if you had already achieved it. It's powerful to add color, sounds, emotions, and other sensory aspects to your visualization time. As you review your cards, try to experience the feeling of confidence as you deliver the keynote address at your industry's annual conference, or the scent of cinnamon rolls baking at the bed and breakfast hotel that you've recently opened, or the sound of waves breaking at the senior executives retreat in Hawaii, or the joy you feel as you're living out your dream career or professional accomplishment. Repetition is the key. The workbook includes detailed guidelines to help you write powerfully effective affirmations for your unique situation. Using your goals in previous exercises about what you want to be, do, and have. Look for exercise number 6 in the workbook. Of course, we've come to the most important step in the 4-part formula that I introduced at the beginning of this webinar. It's step number 4, take action on your goals. Sometimes our biggest life goals seem so overwhelming. Though we may work hard at achieving them, too often we decide to put them off altogether until we have more time, more focus, more energy, or more manpower. We rarely see our goals as a series of small tasks, but in reality, breaking down the goal into smaller tasks and accomplishing them a few at a time is precisely how any big goal gets achieved. By breaking down your goal into bite-sized pieces and baby steps, you can begin accomplishing the small tasks that you've determined will lead you to achieving your goal. But be aware, preparing to move forward isn't the same as taking action itself. In other words, preparation, research, planning, getting it perfect, these are all areas where people get bogged down and never actually start taking action. They're too busy getting ready. But one way that I recommend you actually start taking action on your goals is something I call chunking it down. If you had a target goal of saving 3 to 6 months worth of living expenses in an emergency fund, a sample goal that we mentioned earlier in this webinar, what steps could you take to pull that money together over the next 8 months? Could you, for example, number 1, determine the amount of money per month that you would need? Number 2, identify what portion of your current savings you might use for this special fund. Number 3, make a list of the money sources to save, such as overtime pay at work or maybe a holiday bonus. Number 4, make a list of unused items you could sell on Craigslist or Facebook Marketplace. And number 5, open a new bank account for this money before you start to earn more and sell things. Those 5 steps, which are essentially research and making lists and going to the bank, are all things you could do in just one day, and in fact, probably in one afternoon. But making lists of what needs to be done, or by making lists of what needs to be done, you've effectively chunked down all of the tasks into small steps that are doable and achievable. Which leads me to a helpful strategy for taking action, and that is practice something called the Rule of 5. The Rule of 5 simply means that every day you do 5 specific things that will improve your goal towards completion. Bigger goals might take longer, but the Rule of 5 still applies. Do 5 things every day until your goal is achieved. Take buying a house in Hawaii, for example. That's a very big goal, but chunking it down and doing 5 things a day still applies. You have to find out where the best locations are, determine which island you'd want to live on, find out how much homes there cost, determine how much money you need to save, research where you can get your financing, decide where you're going to get your furniture, determine the repairs or decorating budget that you might need, and on and on and on. Once you decide all of these things and chunk down each larger goal into smaller steps, you can begin taking action on these steps. 5 steps a day until you achieve your goal. While he didn't call it the Rule of 5, a seminar leader I know once said that in order to achieve the life of your dreams, you simply 1, make a wish list of the activities, finances, and lifestyle you'll be enjoying once you get there. 2, break down each of the list into steps that you'll need to take to achieve it. 3, choose a number of those steps to achieve each week, month, or year. And 4, achieve them. That's the game plan we're talking about here for achieving the life of your dreams, or for achieving virtually any impressive goal that you've set out for yourself. Is there something that hinders people from taking any action at all? Of course. One thing is the feeling that they can't accomplish even the smallest of the baby steps. They don't feel confident. Another is that they feel overwhelmed by the sheer amount of stuff that they already have to do. And a third is that they have to ask someone for something in order to move forward. And asking is something they're simply afraid to do. Well, let's address those obstacles right now. I'm actually going to start with the second one that I mentioned. People feel overwhelmed by the amount of tasks that they already have to do. Most of us have incompletes and messes in our households, offices, relationships, families, finances, and other major areas of our lives. We've got overflowing closets and broken screen doors, and 6 years worth of tax paperwork and bills that aren't filed, and a fight with our sibling that's still unresolved, and a nagging health condition we need to address, and on and on. We have incomplete tasks and messes that aren't cleaned up. So one way to stop feeling overwhelmed by what you already have to do is to clean up these messes and incompletes first. It's especially important to handle these incompletes because of what psychologists call attention units. You can attend to only 7 things at once. Beyond that, you can't. So when you have a cluttered desk, when you're constantly seeing all these papers and unanswered letters and 3,000 emails in your inbox, these things steal your focus away from the other tasks you want to accomplish. You look over your mental to-do list and think, oh, I should move that. I should put that away. I need to answer that. The more incompletes you have in your life, the more your focus and creative energy gets fractured and scattered. The other reason it's important to clean up your messes and your incompletes is that by doing so, build self-confidence and self-esteem. When we have a lot of incompletes in our life, we're consciously or unconsciously judging ourselves as incompetent and incapable because we haven't completed them. Every time you look at these messes, they're reflecting back to us the message, "You aren't handling me." We're either afraid to handle them or don't know how to handle them, and this fear and lack of knowledge compromises our feelings of competence. By handling the incompletes, we get more time in our lives to focus on those steps that will bring about the really important goals and dreams that we have. So take the time to put all of your incompletes and messes down on one list, either on paper or in your computer. Walk around the house and note things room by room. Go through your stack of bills to find anything not handled yet. Share with your spouse any family relationships that are in bad shape. Once you have these things listed, you can prioritize them. Then tackle one a month or one per quarter. You don't have to think about the others all the time because you know that they're on the list and will be handled in the order of their importance. You can even apply the minimum target optimum model to these messes. What is the minimum goal or smallest incomplete that you will commit to handling by this weekend? What's a larger mess or incomplete you could make a target goal to handle this month? And what's an outrageous goal that you could handle, such as an incomplete home renovation over the next 90 days? Handling incompletes and messes boosts your confidence and creates available attention span in your life to tackle the 5 things a day you want to do to reach your really big goals. But let's address the third roadblock that keeps people from taking action on their goals. And that is, they lack confidence when asking for what they need from other people who can help them reach their goals. Asking for help, for the help that you need, is still a challenge that holds many people back. Why are people so afraid to ask? Well, we are afraid of several things: looking needy, looking foolish, looking ignorant. But mostly, we're afraid of experiencing rejection. We are afraid of hearing the word no. The sad thing is that when we don't ask, we are actually rejecting ourselves in advance. We are saying no to ourselves before anyone else has a chance to. But here's an illustration to think about. If you apply to Harvard and you don't get in, you weren't in Harvard before you applied, and you're not in Harvard after you applied. Your life didn't get worse, and think about it. You've spent your whole life not going to Harvard, and you know how to handle that. Someone telling you no doesn't make your situation any worse. It just keeps it the same. Well, there's a specific science to asking for and getting what you want or need in the pursuit of your goals. Here are some quick tips to get you comfortable with asking. Number 1, ask as if you expect to get it. Ask with a positive expectation. Ask from the place that you have already been given it. It is a done deal. Ask as if you expect to get a yes. Number 2, assume you can. Don't start with the assumption that you can't get it. If you are going to assume you can get an upgrade. Assume you can get a table by the window. Assume you can get that you can return it without a sales slip. Assume that you can get a raise or that promotion. Don't ever assume against yourself. Number 3, ask someone who can give it to you. Qualify the person. Determine for yourself, who would I have to speak to get this accomplished? Who is authorized to make a decision about that? Who would I have to speak with to get whatever it is that you're asking for? Number 4, be clear and specific. Too many people are walking around wanting more money, more love, more help around the house, more recognition at work, more of everything, but they're not being specific. Do you want enough money to retire? Do you want to go on a date night twice a month? Do you want the kids' bedrooms picked up every Friday and the laundry done by Saturday morning? If you're not sure about the specifics, do research of what it takes and make specific requests. Number 5, ask repeatedly. Never give up. Whenever we ask ourselves to participate in the fulfillment of our goals, some people are going to say no. They may have other priorities, commitments, and reasons not to participate. It's no reflection on you. Just get used to the idea that there's going to be a lot of rejection along the way to the brass ring. The key is to not give up. When someone says no, you say next. Which brings me to number 6, ask someone else. Remember, there are over 6 billion people on the planet. Somebody else has enough authorization, is skilled enough, knowledgeable enough, emotionally invested enough, or otherwise capable of saying yes to you. Don't get stuck in your fear. Move on to the next person and the next person and the next until you connect with the person who can help you. It's a numbers game. Someone out there is waiting to say yes. We've come to the end of today's webinar, but I want to close with 2 things. Number 1, I want you to choose right now one thing that you'll commit to doing and create the future that you deserve. Starting tonight, whether it's to complete the Decide What You Want exercise in the workbook, or to write your first 3x5 affirmation cards, or handle a difficult and troubling situation. Whatever it is, make a mental commitment now and share it with us by posting to Facebook related to this webinar. Remember, when we share our goals, they are more likely to be achieved. So, along with that, I would like to thank everybody for joining today's webinar. I hope that you have found this beneficial and helpful. This has been recorded, and you're welcome to play it back a number of times. A lot of information was shared and conveyed here. It is the kernel or the core of the Success Principles by Jack Canfield and the beginning of my own personal transformation this year, 2019. I thank you once again for joining. One thing I would appreciate if you could do is I have just started re-engaging with social media, and I've created a new business page. If you can find the time to go there, maybe click on like the page. That will also be a repository for a lot of materials as I'm going through this year of Train the Trainer with Jack and learning the Canfield methodology to become certified. I would very much appreciate your stopping by this Facebook page a number of times, and you'll see that there is very valuable content I'll be sharing there. More opportunities like this webinar and such a wonderful resources. I'm continuing to build that over the course of the year. Realize I'm just starting it. It's now the beginning of March 2019, and while it's new, I need you to help me grow my list, and feel free to refer this and pass it on to others. Thank you once again. I appreciate your being here, and I wish you much success. All the best. Thank you.